Picture this, you finally find your first ever Galarian legendary bird, but it's spawned inside of a cluster of 3 other Pokemon, and as you sweat and struggle to find the right angle and actually click the bird, it despawns and is gone forever. Max Pain. These are some of the most annoying things that players despise in Pokemon Go. Kind of like the trade locks on all mythical Pokemon except for Meltan. Mythicals are some of the rarest types of Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and several of which are extremely meta-relevant, like Hoopa and Darkrai. Some mythicals rank as some of the most exclusive Pokemon to ever exist in the history of this game, like Shiny Mew, and many of these were only released once, maybe twice ever. And then a handful of others have made it to Elite raids and regular raids, kind of like Genesect and Darkrai. So basically, just in general, super hard to get. But what makes them even more impossibly exclusive is the fact that you cannot trade to get them. They are trade locked. If you don't have one and want one, it doesn't matter how many friends you know who play that you could steal from. The trade is literally not possible. It's kind of annoying, but like, I kind of get it. Now, I will say these Pokemon would all make the perfect lucky trade. Like, imagine getting a Schlundo Mew. Literal grail, which is actually one of the reasons why my Shundo Darkrai is probably the rarest Pokemon in my entire account. It's a Shundo that could only be acquired by raiding, and I'll never forget the moment that it happened.
It is! No way!
Oh
no way! No way, dude!
Oh
my god!
We've all been in this next scenario. You've got a 100% IV legendary on screen, possibly your first one ever. And as you're nervously shuffling around trying to shake the tension out of your hands, you accidentally slap your phone screen and lose one of your 12 precious Premier Balls. You threw it into the ground. Easily one of the most frustrating moments that could ever happen while raiding. And the worst part is, you can't even blame the game. You did that. Or I did that many times. I actually think I can remember like a hilarious moment where I had a 100% IV legendary on screen and JT Gilly came in to help me catch it, and I think he like threw a ball on the ground on accident, and then I think I caught it.
Where'd you go? Let's go! No way! Dude! Built Diffy! Built Diff!
Let's go back to the first thought that we had. Not being able to click on a Pokemon because it's in a cluster of other Pokemon. Then after 100 tries or different angled taps, or after catching some of the Pokemon that are in the way, the one thing you're trying to get despawns. We've all had this happen to us, and it couldn't be more annoying, especially when it's something as rare as a Galarian bird, which are just impossible to find anyways. I've even talked about this as a potential future feature to add to fix this problem. The ability to basically long click a cluster of Pokemon, then select exactly which Pokemon you're trying to tap on. Because losing a rare spawn due to it being behind another spawn is pure pain. Felt most by JT Gilly in this clip.
Dude, please, don't do this to me. It won't let me click it. It won't let me click it. It won't let me click it. Bro. I'm looking at it. It won't let me click it. Dude, it won't let me click it. It wouldn't let me click it! It wouldn't let me click it! It wouldn't let me click it!
Well, technically this was a different annoying thing that players hate. When Pokemon spawn inside of a Pokestop or a gym. Because when this happens, it's not like you can just quick catch your way out of the situation. That stop is there and it is not moving. And if your spawn's inside of it, you're not getting it. And sometimes there's literally no angle that you can spin your phone or spin your perspective in order to get the tap. Although I do think Pokemon Go has recently reworked the game a bit because I haven't noticed this happening quite as often, which is really nice. But man, it used to happen a ton and it was really frustrating. Now, something that's been happening a lot more than it used to is Niantic, who are the developers of Pokemon Go, messing up the announcement of an event and giving the wrong information about it. Like with a recent event, the Sustainability event, where they announced special hatches would be coming out of the 2-kilometer eggs specifically, but later that week, changing the blog post to say 7-kilometer eggs instead of 2s. And when they tweeted about this, players were not happy with the response. This is especially annoying because a lot of people probably don't follow Niantic's support on Twitter. So many players probably read the blog post when it was released, then spent money hatching 2-kilometer eggs instead of 7s, with nothing special inside of them. And this is definitely not the first time that this has happened, and again, it's been happening a lot more lately. All you really have to do is just scroll through Niantic Support's Twitter feed to see how big of an issue this actually is. Does anybody remember the white screen glitch? Instead of just going back to the lobby to revive everybody, your screen would just stay white, and you'd have to quit the game out and reload it to come back into the raid. This is a glitch that kind of seems to come in and out of the game periodically, which is odd that it's never been fully fixed. But man, there was a time that this was happening almost every single raid, and I know know that this was happening a lot because it was during a time where there was a super hard Mega Pokemon out, so you fainted out of the raids a lot. And dude, I lost so many raids because of this glitch, because sometimes you would start a raid when the raid itself had less than 2 minutes on it. So by the time that you fainted and had to reload the game, the raid itself had already expired. It was gone, which means your raid pass and whatever Pokemon you were hoping to defeat and catch was also gone. Although I am pretty sure that when this happened, you could message support and they would reimburse you with either a raid pass or like a handful of items. So it was nice, but it really never made those moments less frustrating. If you got a task that would reward you with 100,000 Stardust and all you had to do is find a Ditto, could you do it? Ditto was released way back in November of 2016, and with the exception of a handful of events, it has historically been one of the hardest Pokemon to find in the wild. Also, not to mention, the pool of Pokemon that could be Ditto has constantly changed and updated over the years, so you never really know what to hunt for when you're going out in the wild trying to find one, and sometimes you need to find one. The Catch a Ditto field research task has been around for years, and one that I always end up trashing, even though the rewards are really good. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a special research that existed that a lot of players got stuck on, because in order to get past a certain stage, you had to find and catch a Ditto. So if you're in this boat and you need to find a Ditto for some reason, it's usually best to wait for an event where they're spawning more often. And forget about finding a shiny Ditto. That guy is absolutely impossible unless there's a special event. Kind of like during the 2022 April Fool's event, which I definitely lucked out during. How nice would it be to press one button that revived every one of your Pokemon that fainted? Sometimes I'll do a couple of raids in a row without reviving, or all of my best Pokemon will get knocked out in a raid that I really need them for, and then I'll have to go all Formula 1 pit crew mode, reviving everything and then potioning everything as fast as possible to get back into the battle. And when I have a ton of Pokemon knocked out, it's a bit of a process to go through and freaking tap on everything, reviving, and then go tap on everything and then healing them up. Actually, back in the day, you used to be able to multi-tap, so you can use 3 fingers and revive 3 Pokemon at a time, or heal 3 Pokemon at a time, and they took that away. And that's one of those subtly frustrating things that you kind of run into all the time, especially if you raid a lot. And God, we've talked about it before, but a revive all and a heal all button would do wonders in this game. But I guess since Niantic kind of recently killed remote raiding in Pokemon Go, it matters a little bit less. Which brings me to my next super frustrating thing, the feeling of being completely ignored or disregarded by Niantic, the developers. A great example is obviously the pandemic bonuses, which we've talked about a ton. The community was in outrage when Niantic announced bonuses like the spin radius and extra effective incenses were going to be rolled back, mainly because they were rolling them back kind of before the pandemic was over, and players felt completely disregarded when that happened. But after an incredible amount of community outcry, Niantic made some changes that definitely helped. One of those changes apparently being informing and listening to the community a whole lot more, but fast forward to this year, 2023, where they not only nerfed remote raids into absolute oblivion by both doubling their price and including a daily limit on them, but then said absolutely nothing to the community, which was and is still insanely upset about the super unreasonable and unfair change. They're currently playing the stay silent, hope everyone forgets, and move on strategy, which kind of feels like a slap in the face to the online community. Players kind of feel spited, ignored, and a bit helpless when the game that they love is being wrestled into a game that really only serves the goal of the developers. Out of all the things we've talked about today, this is absolutely the biggest one that makes people quit the most. And longtime players will continue to quit over this as long as Niantic ignores their player base. And so will content creators. I personally have been struggling a bit with video ideas and viewership since this update happened. And those were some of the most annoying and frustrating things players deal with in Pokemon Go. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the other videos on screen. Thank you for watching.